brought to you by the Dao Health.
This is Delve, a podcast that endeavours to enlighten and support you in understanding and transforming your own health.
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Cullen and my co-hosts are Clarice Berry and Molly Burton. And together we will be drawing on the Dao Health's signature and unique integrative approach to traditional Chinese medicine.
So take a seat at our table, grab a tea, and let's dive deep into the enduring legacy and evolution of medical practices over time.
This episode of Delve is proudly brought to you by Empirical Health. At Empirical Health, we're guided by a deep respect for the classical traditions of Chinese medicine, crafted with care for modern practitioners and passionate learners alike. Our founder, a practitioner as well, built Empirical Health to offer everything from raw herbs, powders, single granules to formulations you can trust. Tested, transparent and traceable. If you're studying TCM or embracing natural wellness, there's a place for you here. Visit empiricalhealthshop.com.au. Thank you so much to Empirical Health for making this episode of Delve possible.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Delve. A big hello to my wonderful co-host Liz. Hi Liz.
Hello.
And Clarice.
Hi.
Welcome back. We have such an exciting episode lined up for you today as we dive into Chinese Dietary Therapy. Even better, we're joined by very special guest, TCM food therapist, chef and dietitian Zoey Gong, who's tuning in all the way from Shanghai.
So exciting.
So cool.
I had the absolute pleasure of meeting Zoey during my recent trip to China, where we joined her on the Shanghai Wellness Tour. So that was really cool. So I'm so excited to have her on Delve and for her to share her wonderful knowledge.
I'm such a fangirl of Zoey, so I cannot wait to pick her brain.
Her Instagram page is honestly amazing. So if you really want to get a good insight into Chinese medicine, give her a follow.
And we'll definitely share all those things at the end of today's episode. But before we get into it, and on the topic of food, I wanted to ask you ladies, what's one way you implement Chinese dietary therapy into your week? Liz?
Oh, okay. I'm a big fan of hajima, so black sesame seeds. So I'm currently pregnant at the moment, so I still take black sesame seeds in my smoothie every day. It nourishes the kidney yin and also supports blood flow as well in the body. So 1 tablespoon a day. I also find it helps with hair and nails in a room temperature smoothie, or I'll pop it in porridge as well. And it's nutty and yummy and just delicious.
You know, I had a patient the other day get the black sesame seeds, and she actually put it in her coffee grinder and then brewed the hot water through her coffee machine through the black sesame and made herself a black sesame latte. And I'm like, I am going to try that.
Oh, so it'd be like tahini, but like a tahini latte.
Yeah.
Fun.
I'm like, let's try
that. And then also Molly's recipe that she made for us the other week as well.
Those jing balls were amazing.
So good. They definitely nourish the jing.
They
were
definitely
great.
do.
Yeah.
Where do we get black sesame seed powder though, Liz?
Chinese grocer, we've got them at the clinic as well. So you just need to be mindful of the quality of the black sesame seeds. And just being mindful that if you're proactive like Clarice's patient and she was happy to grind it herself, otherwise I always recommend the powder. Yeah. And also you'll absorb that better than what you will the seeds. Yeah. So
Wonderful.
The actual hajima black sesame seeds is actually the powder.
Yeah, cool. And what about you, Clarice?
I just like to incorporate more dark purple pigmented foods into my diet. So when I go grocery shopping, instead of buying my standard orange carrot, I'll buy the purple carrot and I'll buy purple cabbage, and including more darker beans like kidney beans, black beans. All of these foods nourish the kidneys, and we're all about the kidneys from a fertility perspective. So that's how I like to do it on a really easy level. I still cook the same foods, but I just go for those deeper nourishing kidney foods instead.
Yeah, wonderful.
Yeah.
I love using tremella mushroom or snow fungus. So once again, coming back to my China trip, we were eating snow fungus soup most days, and it's so hydrating for the skin. So I've brought that back into Sydney life.
And you were glowing. You were always glowing, but coming back from China, your skin was just
on point, glowing.
So I try and incorporate tremella mushroom into my daily routine, and I actually use the tremella powder from Super Feast. So that's a really easy way to add into any of your warm drinks or smoothie. But yes, I know Clarice did make her snow fungus soup a couple years back, but
A couple of years back at the
definitely back
Dao,
on the list to do.
But it was like a dessert.
so
Yeah.
good.
Like,
Super
it was
sweet.
so sweet. It was lovely.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And I think it actually traditionally is eaten as a dessert too. Yeah.
And it would be fun. Imagine if you incorporated that into your gua sha practice at night time.
Oh my gosh.
Tremella dessert with Da Zhao and Goji, and then
New woman.
New
Glowing.
woman.
glowing.
Watch this space.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Very good. Alrighty, let's get into our dynasty section for today. Dynasties where we take a historical deep dive into the origins and the story related to today's topics. So today we're discussing all things traditional Chinese dietary therapy. So long before superfoods and supplements, the ancient Chinese tradition were already asking how can what we eat shape how we feel, think, and heal. So traditional Chinese dietary therapy, or Shí Liáo, has roots stretching back over 2,000 years, and it wasn't considered alternative or trendy. It was absolutely foundational to health and healing. The idea that food is medicine appears as early as the Huangdi Neijing, the Yellow Emperor's inner classic, compiled during the Warring States period into the early Han Dynasty around 2nd century BCE. This seminal text laid out the connection between diet, the 5 elements, and the internal organs. Foods weren't judged solely by their nutrients, but their energetic properties, whether they were warming, cooling, damp forming, or qi tonifying. This holistic approach sees food as an extension of the body's internal balance, which is something that we highlight, and that's how we practice traditional Chinese medicine. Then came Zhang Zhongjing in the Eastern Han Dynasty, circa 150 to 219 CE. Sorry, a lot of numbers there. A pioneering physician who compiled the Treatise of Cold Damage. This influential medical text included not only herbal formulas, but also food-based healing recipes, showing how diet and medicine work hand in hand. Fast forward to the Tang Dynasty, where we meet Sun Liao, often called the king of medicine. He famously said, "The superior doctor treats disease before it arises." Sun Liao emphasized that food and lifestyle were the primary tools of prevention. His medical encyclopedia even dedicates a whole chapter to therapeutic food preparations and seasonal eating, showing how diet adapts to the rhythms of nature and the individual's constitution. Over subsequent dynasties from Song to Ming to Qing, Chinese dietary therapy grew increasingly sophisticated. Physicians and scholars compiled extensive food material medica, blending culinary arts with medical knowledge. Food was tailored not only just to illness, but also to constitution, climate, age, season, and even emotional state. Today, traditional Chinese medicine dietary therapy continues as a living tradition adapted into modern kitchens, clinics, and tea houses around the world. So whether it's sipping goji and jujube tea in winter to nourish the kidneys, our favourite, or avoiding cold greens during postpartum recovery to protect the spleen, its core remains unchanged. Food isn't just fuel, it's a way to harmonize the body with nature. So that's a summary of traditional Chinese medicine dietary therapy, which is one of our core pillars that we use in clinic and in our TCM practice.
Love that.
I think this was really highlighted when I was in China as well, that in the pharmacy, yes, you'd see Chinese herbs used from a lifestyle perspective, like they weren't prescribed, you could just take them off the shelf. But also like in all of the markets in China, you could see the locals would pick up different foods, seasonally, but also what we would consider herbs from our study, they actually just use in their normal diet as well. And it's really fascinating to see that it's, yes, from a Chinese medicine side of things, but it's also cultural in China as well. And the fact that we can adapt that here in Sydney, Australia,
is wonderful.
I think it's wonderful.
And I think another thing in China too, which is great, Liz, with their water filters.
So cool.
Yeah, they only have a warm water tap rather than a cold or an iced option that we have in Sydney,
we
Australia.
need that for the clinic.
We do. So yes, it's a wonderful to bring all this back into our modern worlds and to continue to use it, I should say.
And it'll be so great to hear from Zoey today.
Yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. So for today's deep dive, we're absolutely thrilled to be joined by a very special guest, Zoey Gong. Zoey is a chef and food therapist grounded in the principles of traditional Chinese medicine, a registered dietitian, and an educator with a passion for bringing ancient healing practices through life through food. Originally from Shanghai, China, Zoey spent many years in New York City studying integrative nutrition and sharing the principles of TCM through immersive pop-up dinners, workshops, and educational events. Since 2018, she's been a key voice in the revival of Chinese medicinal cooking, making it both accessible and deeply nourishing for modern lives. In 2023, she published her first cookbook, The 5 Elements Cookbook with HarperCollins, a beautifully designed guide that brings 5 elements framework into everyday cooking. She's now back in Shanghai, continuing to bridge cultures and centuries through her work, which is where I had the absolute pleasure to meet Zoey in my recent trip to China in March of 2025, joining her on her Shanghai Wellness Tour. So thank you so much, Zoey. Zoey, welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you here, and we can't wait to learn from your perspective of how food can truly be a medicine.
Oh, thank you so much, Molly. I'm so happy to be here.
Wonderful. Let's get into our first question. So for those new to Chinese dietary therapy, how would you describe its core philosophy?
Yeah, it's actually quite simple. Using food as medicine, using food as the thing that can help you prevent diseases and even treat certain illnesses.
Wonderful. We love that.
Yeah,
so then in terms of how it differs then from the way you might typically think about food and nutrition in the West. So I'm sure on your time in New York City, it was a lot of education there. So describing what Chinese medicine looks like from the lens of food in comparison to those in the West.
Yeah, totally. First of all, I want to acknowledge that there are actually a lot of similarities, medical, Western nutrition and Eastern, they're not really complete opposites. They're not enemies against each other. So for example, in the West, you will say, oh, eat like a rainbow, right? Like eat natural things, the whole foods. In Chinese medicine, exactly the same. We have the saying 五谷为养, and it's in 黄帝内经, in the canon of the Yellow Emperor. Exact same idea. 5 different type of grains, 5 different colors of veggies and fruits. Eat all of these as natural as possible. That's the core principle of Chinese medicine. And however, there is also big differences. So when I was studying Western medicine, I realized that we use numbers a lot, which you don't see in Chinese medicine at all. So in Western medicine, you define a food by its calories, how many minerals, vitamins it contains. But in Chinese medicine, we never kind of quantify a food. We describe the food with characteristics. Its energetics. Is it cooling? What meridians does it go to? Where does the energy of the qi go? So I think that's the huge difference. And also for humans too, in Western nutrition, we also define a person with numbers. Your BMI or your blood test values, and if you're deficient in vitamin D and things like that. But again, in Chinese medicine, it's more qualitative. How you are in terms of the constitution, where is your imbalance, it's definitely a little bit more holistic than Western nutrition.
Yeah, super interesting, because I feel like it is very much so data-orientated Western medicine. And Chinese medicine is very intuitive, and it's listening to the individual and going based off how they're feeling and their constitution, as you said. So interesting.
I love
totally.
learning about the 5 flavors as well. I remember the Chinese dietetics subject at uni. It was one of my favorites. So yes, we love thinking about the thermal properties of food and how that works for our bodies.
Definitely. And I think Chinese medicine and nutrition, even though it has had thousands of years of history, it's quite advanced when you think about it. Because for nutrition, we just started to notice the connection with our brain and our emotions with the food that we eat. But in Chinese medicine, we're talking about it with the 5 elements theory, how the elements are connected to organs and foods and seasons and our emotions for a very long time.
Yeah.
What's one herb or food that you personally can't go without, Zoey, your day-to-day?
Yeah, it's so hard to choose. When I saw this question, I was like, oh my God, I don't know which one to choose. But recently I really, really love, snow fungus is something that I always have every day in the morning. It's morning for me now, and I just had a bowl of snow fungus soup cooked with lotus seeds, goji berries, jujube dates, and longan.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because maybe you can hear I have a little sore throat, so snow fungus is quite good for the lung to soothe the throat, and it's good for the skin, for immunity. Just truly a wonderful mushroom.
I remember we were having bowls of snow fungus soup nearly every day when we were in China with Zoey.
Yes.
And I remember Mom was like, my skin is glowing.
So hydrated.
Oh, yes. Yes,
so true though.
Totally. Yeah, and my family really love it too because my great aunt, she's actually a researcher for integrated medicine, so integrated Chinese and Western medicine, and her study was about snow fungus, tremella mushroom, and she found out how this mushroom is so hydrating that it could hydrate deep to direct to our cells, to increase the intercellular fluids in our body, and in turn to prevent free radicals attacking our cells. So her husband is a cancer survivor. He still has cancer for many, many years. And she cooks a pot of snow fungus every single day, every morning for him. And she thinks that's what's at least, helping a little bit for him.
Wow.
So I truly believe that.
Zoey, with the snow fungus soup, would that be like an entree before a main for breakfast? Is that like seen as more of as a Chinese herbal support, or is that your main breakfast?
It's definitely part of it because, it doesn't contain any protein, right? It's a mushroom, a quite light soup. It's probably not enough as a whole breakfast. So it's like the first thing I like to have, something liquidy to kind of prepare my digestive system for something heavier. I like to have even like fish sometimes in the morning.
Yeah, great.
We'll have to get that research from your auntie as well. It's really cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, I don't think it's translated to English.
Oh, okay.
But I'm happy to send the Chinese version.
We could give it a go.
Yeah.
Is there any research with snow fungus and perimenopause or menopause?
I'm not sure, but I'm sure they are because, menopause is an indeficiency pattern, and snow fungus nourishes the yin.
Yeah.
Wonderful. That's really interesting. Love my snow fungus. I've come home from China and I keep harping on about snow fungus.
Molly harps on about it daily.
Clarice made it for us in clinic, remember? The tremella or the snow fungus soup a few years ago.
A little while ago.
It's beautiful.
Though it's a funny one. I'm like, how do you cook it to make sure it's like nice and soft? Because I feel like ours was still a little bit chewy. But is that how it's supposed to be?
So first you have to cook it long enough for it to be soft, and also the quality of the snow fungus is very important. So these two deciding factors.
Yeah.
Do you cook the snow fungus with, say, for example, the Dao Does? Excuse my pronunciation, Zoey.
Oh, yeah, don't worry.
With the Dao Does or like with the Gucci Z, so that you're getting those medicinal properties from those herbs as well?
Also, yes, and also a little natural sweetness.
Yeah.
I'm from Shanghai, and we're famous for our sweet cuisine. So I have a sweet tooth. So, and dates and goji are fantastic natural sweeteners.
Yeah.
Lovely. So in terms of traditional dietary therapy, Zoey, what's one way that someone could slowly introduce this into their daily routine without it feeling overwhelming? I know in clinic we often will talk about like adding in some goji berries into your morning oats, or adding in your black sesame seeds powder into your smoothie. What's one way that you would recommend for someone to slowly incorporate more of that way of living?
Yeah, totally. And this is such a common question because it seems so daunting, right? You go to an herbal store or Chinese supermarket even, you see a gajillion ingredients you've never seen before. So I usually would recommend kind of a 3-step method. So the first step is actually the easiest one is to follow the season and eat as natural as possible. The core principle of Chinese medicine. Be mindful to eat your local seasonal food so that your qi and the qi in the environment flows together. That's very important. And everybody can do this without spending too much money, right? That's the first step. If you're able to do that, then second, you can look into yourself, what you should eat for your particular body constitution, for your particular imbalance. So achieving that, I would highly recommend to go see a practitioner. And when you go, ask them, what do they think of your body, and ask for some recommendations. Then with that, you are able to go online or read and do some self-education and to choose foods that's particularly good for you. Because someone, let's say, with a yang deficiency and someone with a yin deficiency, their foods could look quite different. Maybe 50% of the base is the same, but the other 50%, they could choose very different foods. So that's the second step. And again, going to practitioner because you are not trained in TCM. It takes at least 4 years to be able to diagnose or figure out what your imbalance is. So I highly recommend just go once to understand that. And that's totally worth it. And then the last step would be slowly to add in these more medicinal Chinese herbal ingredients. And it's also hard to tell you, exactly which one to choose. So based on what you've learned with the seasonality, with your constitution, then you will find information. Then also pick 3 to start with. So for example, right now, I guess in Australia it's winter, right?
Yeah.
So what Molly said, the black sesame powder would be fantastic. Something warming, let's say adding ginger to it, even the dates and goji, these basic, lovely, very, very evidence-backed ingredients. You can start to add 3 to 5 to your diet.
Definitely. And I guess you're going into summer, Zoey, in the Northern Hemisphere. So what types of ingredients will you be adding into your daily routine?
Yeah, totally. So in Shanghai, it's very humid. It's our raining season now. So the top one is absolutely koic seeds. It's a seed will kind of taste like couscous or pearled couscous. It's really great for cooling and also reducing dampness. And I also love to add lotus leaf now. It's a fantastic ingredient to reduce summer heat. Just drink it as a tea. Also good for weight management.
Wonderful.
We love that.
And I guess when you were talking before about constitutions and talking about someone that might be yin deficient or yang side of things, when we're thinking about chili, this is the next question, which flows quite well, is I know chili is a big part of people's diets and some people love to add chili to everything. What's your perspective on chili from a TCM perspective, and who do you think it's best for, and who do you think some people should maybe pull back on the chili?
Yeah, totally. So first of all, chili is actually also a medicinal ingredient. It has so many wonderful compounds in there that's good for our health. It's always about dosage, right? If you have too much of it in long term, it can cause some heat inside of you, especially when you're already a more heated person, and especially if you live in, for example, like a desert area that's more dry and hot, then it can cause heat for you. However, if you are someone who are lack of yang, meaning you tend to feel really cold, deficient, a little lack of energy, you need more motivation to do things, and you're a little slow, then some chili could be good for you. And especially in winter, or if you're living in an environment, let's say the Nordic environments, when you don't have a lot of sun and it's always really, really cold, then chili can be good for you also. And also depends on the type of chili. The dry chili and chili with a lot of oil are kind of 2 different stories. So, if you tend to have a more damp constitution, meaning more inflammation, then you have higher weight, then choose the dry chili. Can be actually good for you, but not the oily type of chili.
So interesting.
Zoey, do you mind, diving into how chili would be negative for someone with kidney yin deficiency?
Yeah, of course. yin, what is yin, right? Yin and yang. Yin is the watery part of your body, of the nature. So if you're deficient in that, you're already hydrated. And especially when it comes to kidney yin deficiency. Kidney honestly doesn't really love those very pungent flavors. It loves things that's a little bit more, how do you say, like a thick liquids. So good oil, right? Sesame oil, good broth. Kidney love that. And think about chili. It's a very different texture and to the thick liquid texture. So if you have too much of that, it could further to hurt your kidney yin and to make your kidney yin deficiency worse. And when you have kidney yin deficiency, something you already have some menopausal symptoms, the very heated hot flashes, and thinking, imagine you already have that and add in something that's very hot and the heat goes up towards your head, right? And then it's definitely not good when you think about it like this.
Yeah, great.
Thank you, Zoe. That's such a clear description.
Yeah.
Of course.
In Australia, chili oil is very popular on lots of meals.
Everything.
On everything.
Oh, really?
So
I did not know that.
Yeah, so I think that's great that you've clarified the difference between like a chili flake or a dried chili and then the chili oil too. So a lot of patients will benefit from that.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. And then just on the topic of women's health, Zoe, what's one food or herbal herb that you might add in leading up to like your period, for example? So in that luteal phase, we spoke on previous episodes about being in your autumn season in Chinese medicine. So we're preparing for the bleed. What's something that you might implement leading up to your menstrual bleed?
There's, first of all, try to reduce the cold things that you're having, whether it's cold in terms of temperature or cold in terms of their energetics. So for example, cold things that's in temperature would be iced water or your ice cream, that, all these cold things. And if it's cold things in thermal nature, that would be things like salads, raw foods, even something like very minty tea. Have a little less of those. You can still have them, but just a little less leading to a period. And at the same time, adding some warming things. So for example, you can have a little spiced tea, a little turmeric latte instead of your iced coffee in the morning. And Molly mentioned entering your autumn phase of your body, and spices are fantastic for the metal element. Autumn. That's one thing. And second, I would recommend herbs like angelica root, dangui. It's fantastic to balance our hormones and even ease some period cramps too. So
Wonderful.
This is some two things I would recommend.
Yeah, wonderful. I think that actually ties really well. We'll move into our Dear Dao Does segment. So this, Zoe, is when one of our listeners will send in an anonymous question or a concern and we unpack it all together. So we will get you to answer our Dear Dao Does question, which flows on to what you're just talking about in regards to cold. So today, Dear Dao Does question is, I know raw foods like salads and smoothies are full of nutrients, but I've heard that they can be too cold from a Chinese medicine perspective and should be limited. Is that true?
It is true that salads, smoothies, and raw foods have a cold and cooling nature in TCM, but I think on social media nowadays, you see a lot of users, never have those cold things in China. It's just simply not true. In China, we have these raw salads, especially when it's in the summer. So it's always about when do you consume them, how much you consume them, and what type of person you are. So in summer, you can definitely have a little bit more of these cooling foods. In winter, have less of them or minimal, because you don't want to cool your body down even more. And if you are someone who have a fantastic digestive system, you have great digestion and you kind of run high, you have a lot of energy, you're very fit, you can have some raw foods. No problem. It could even be good for you if you have a lot of inflammation, right? Let's say, for example, someone who always eat grilled meats or fast foods. They have a very heated body. They smoke. Some salads for them, even on a daily basis, could be a fantastic choice. So it really depends on who you are. But the idea that kind of a lot of Chinese medicine doctor will try to avoid is that most of us don't have such a good, strong digestive system nowadays. So raw food is a little bit more difficult for our body to digest. Think about a really, really cold smoothie. You're having something really cold into your body, and your body is working so hard to bring it back to temperature first, and then it's thinking about digesting it. So it could make you feel more bloated, more tired. So if you're already feeling these symptoms, yes, it would be a good choice for you to give up your smoothie or just drink it when it's more close to room temperature. So a lot of choices that you can make, right? And lastly, I do want to mention that yes, there are a lot of nutrients in raw foods and heat-sensitive nutrients like vitamin C. So you can definitely have something raw. In China, we eat a lot of fruits actually, and they are pretty much always raw. And we balance our cuisine this way. And in the north, when it's quite cold, people have much less raw food. They might have a raw garlic actually, but not a lot more. They have like raw chives and stuff like that. But when you go to southwest China, for example, like Yunnan, Guizhou, they have a ton of raw herbs, just like kind of like a Vietnamese food, right? They has a lot of fresh veggies and salads. We have a lot of that when you come to a more humid and hot areas. So it's kind of a very long answer for this question, but to summarize, raw foods are not completely your enemy. However, if you notice that you're living in a cold environment, it's winter for you, and you tend to feel fatigued, your digestion is poor, then it is correct to reduce it.
Yeah, great. That was very comprehensive.
Yeah, I think it's important to support our spleen qi, as we talk about, in the digestive fire in Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
And I think that comes a lot into our practice at the Dao in terms of women's health. We're always trying to tonify the qi because we need to build the qi, we need to build the blood to support reproductive health. And I'm always talking about that digestive fire, and I'm always talking about that room temp smoothie.
Room temperature smoothie. Yes. And I always find a practical piece of advice is if you look at your plate and you see that 80% is cooked, and then you can have 20% raw. And if you have that as like a rule of thumb overall in a Western society, people are able to usually take that on.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I think in the West, right, a lot of people eat their only veggie is from salads, the raw salads. But then the thing is, when you're eating salad, you're actually not eating a lot of veggies. You can eat a whole bowl of spinach, raw spinach, but when you're sauteing it, it's literally one bite.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. When you cook veggies, you have different flavors and you eat more.
Yeah, exactly. And also, I think when I'm trying to get patients to wrap their minds around having more cooked foods, I'm like, think about cooking your food starts the process of digestion for us. It breaks down those really hard fibers and proteins so that when we consume it, our body can readily extract those nutrients and turn it into qi and blood and send it to where it needs to go. So I think that's a good way to like get your mind to wrap around the idea of raw foods can be difficult to digest. And as you were saying, Zoe, if you are getting really bloated after eating those types of foods, try cooking them, try sauteing them, try roasting them, and see how your body digests it after warming it up a little bit.
100%.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Zoe. It was so lovely to have you on the Delve podcast. Can you let us know, or let the listeners know, where they can find you? And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the Silver Root Apothecary. It's very exciting.
Yeah, of course. And thank you so much for all the questions. I love the questions. So to find me, you can find me on Instagram. My handle is Zoey Xinyi Gong. So Zoey, Zoey Xinyi Gong. You can also use that. It's also my website, zoeyxinyigong.com. And I'm in Shanghai right now. I'm opening my own Chinese medicine food therapy studio. It's called the Silver Root Apothecary. It'll be open in 2 weeks. It's a space where I host cooking classes and different workshops related to Chinese medicine, food therapy. We also offer consultation and some treatments also. So it's a community for people who are interested in food therapy and to learn practical ways to take care of themselves. We also source herbs from all across China. They're lab tested, and some organic, some directly from small farmers, to provide people with the best quality herbal ingredients. And when it's launched, you can also find us online as well at silverrootapothecary.com.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
Wonderful.
So
I
exciting,
can't
Zoe.
get-
Congratulations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't wait to
Yeah.
get back and
Yeah.
see it all and be back in Shanghai.
Yes,
Sounds
you
amazing,
have to.
Zoe.
You have to.
Amazing.
Thank you for everything you're doing for Chinese medicine as well,
Yeah.
Zoe.
Of course, thank you too, and you too. In Australia, if you tell a Chinese person, they will never believe it. In Australia, doing Chinese medicine so well.
Yeah. And I think another good resource, Zoe, is your book, the 5 Elements Cookbook. That's a really nice, helpful resource for people to read and see all those amazing recipes. I know that we reference that in the clinic a lot. So that's a great tool. And then, of course, jumping on one of your China wellness tours, which are also so fabulous.
Yes, yeah, I already forgot about those 2 things.
Very
Yeah, I
good.
do have a tour coming up in June and in August to Yunnan, and then October for this year.
Oh, amazing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Zoe.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Take
everyone.
care.
Thanks so much for listening to another episode of Delve. Thank you so much to Zoey Gong for joining us on today's episode, and to my wonderful co-hosts Clarice Berry and Elizabeth Cullen. We'll place all the recommendations in the show notes, and we can't wait to see where you're listening from and to tune in at our next episode. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Delve and being a part of our community. Follow at The Dao on Instagram to vote in our polls and stay connected. Ask our team a Dear Dao Does question via the link in our show notes. And for more information and to sign up to our newsletter, visit our website.
The content provided on this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. It's not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare professional with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Leaving a review on Delve helps others to find our show and increases awareness for women's health and traditional Chinese medicine. We would love if you can take a moment to like, subscribe, and share. This episode was recorded on Gadigal land. Always was, always will be traditional Aboriginal land.